which is what he submitted, constitutes 20.5% or 20.58, nearly 20.6% of the whole text messages. Here's a guy who has sworn an oath to tell the court the whole truth. He brings some evidence that he hopes will be important in the outcome, the final determination of the matter. And in submitting this, he says, I'm submitting only 20.5%. The court says, do you acknowledge that there is more? He said, oh yeah, there's a lot more. Why didn't you submit all that? It is not in favor of my case. I submitted what's in favor of my case. A person who is going to assist the court to come to the truth, the whole truth, says these things. You are his lawyer. Viewers, you are his lawyer. How are you going to deal with this? How are you going to deal with this if you are Jakpa's lawyer? How? You are listening to him and you see what he's saying. Then the Attorney General rises and says, okay, no problem. We will tender the rest. And then his lawyers come out and say, we will not allow you to tender it. The reason they gave is an interesting reason. And when we get to the story, I will tell you. Now though, good evening. Welcome to the evening talk show. It's called Good Evening Ghana. Let's do it onto the touch screen now. Good evening, Your Lordship Justice Kulendi, Mr. Jakpa, and the learned Attorney General Godfrey Dame. They are our second story. We'll get there. Beyond that, Mr. Jakpa answered questions about his military career. We'll get there later on, but let me just give you a hint so you don't go away. He answered questions about his military career. He did. And then he says something about Justice Kulendi, which sounds, because the matter is still before the court, let me use the word interesting. Sounds very, very interesting. Almost unbelievable. But he said it. I mean, everybody in the court was shocked. We'll get there. All right, let's move to our first story. Viewers, if you've been watching the political space, welcome. Time to get to court. Good evening. Once again, His Lordship Justice Kulendi, Lieutenant Jakpa, and the learned Attorney General. So, the things that happened in court today, some of it was terrible. I already talked about how the lawyers may be uncomfortable. But we're going to stay with two issues. The big two takeaways from the court. So here they are. Our big takeaway from the court where we were this afternoon is as follows. One, Mr. Jakpa says he was victimized in the army and that is why he failed his promotional exams several times. And that is why the army said he had bad conduct. Number two says he claims Kulendi went all the way to AG's office during the court's proceedings to ask the AG to help Jakpa to go home due to complications in the verification of the documents. And the third one we add is the text messaging, the story about the text messaging, which I've already said. So three stories. Let's begin with the first one. Francis Jakpa says he was victimized. He said that in cross-examination today, being cross-examined by the Director for Public Prosecutions, representing the prosecution in the matter of the ambulance trial with case Ato Forson, the minority leader, as the first accused person. Second accused person has been discharged by the court upon the discretion of the Attorney General as a result of ill health, proven ill health. And the third accused person is Mr. Francis Jakpa, who was an agent for a company called Big C, which was contracted by the government of Ghana, blah, blah, blah. The subject matter of the contract is before Her Lordship Justice Efia Sewa. Now, though, let's get to the details. Here, Jakpa says, according to records, he didn't pass his promotional exams from 2000 to 2007. He answered that he was being victimized. What is the story behind the victimization? Mr. Jakpa says that his father had something to do with the defense of the revolution. In particular, his father had something to do with the release of Flight Lieutenant Rawlins. I believe he may be referring to the interregnum between May 15th and June 4th. The June 4th coup that was occasioned by Boachijan, Mensah Poku, and others to release Flight Lieutenant Rawlins. And then Flight Lieutenant Rawlins was due to go back to court, the court-martial of the Ghana Armed Forces at Burma Hall on 4th June, Monday, 4th June 1979. The court's trial had begun already. It was led, the tribunal was chaired by Colonel Emisa. In those days, I believe the name is Emisa, yes. Colonel Emisa, who was the the director of the directorate at the legal directorate of the Ghana Armed Forces, the director at the legal directorate of the Ghana Armed Forces, Colonel Emis, I believe it is. Oh no, sorry, the name is Enimfo, Colonel Enimfo. He was the director, legal director of Ghana Armed Forces in 1979. He was a lawyer. They call him a judge advocate, something like that. So he was chairing, and then the matter had been adjourned. Lawyers for Flight Lieutenant Rawlings included the famous William Abduma, Bosman, Chachu Chikata, and others. We have that in some of our documentaries. The June 4 documentary is really there. You can Google it and look at it. So JJ was due in court, back in court on Monday, June 4th. And then at the dawn of Monday, June 4th, soldiers led by Captain Boachijan hit the BNI headquarters and released JJ Rawlings. Mr. Jakpa is telling us a story that suggests that his father may have been instrumental in that operation. He says as a result of that, he was victimized in the Ghana Armed Forces. And he said that having joined the Ghana Armed Forces in 1998, I believe, he had 2 years of his second lieutenant to lieutenant without any exam, which is what it is. And then from lieutenant to captain, you have to write an exam. It takes 4 years to be lieutenant to captain. If you pass your exam in 4 years' time, you'll be captain. It turns out that he had difficulties in passing the exam. The matter was confronted to him in court today because I think the prosecution is trying to unravel the character of the witness, the character of the accused person. I guess that's what the prosecution is trying to draw at. So they will draw at anything that has to do with your history, your career, your background, something like that. So the prosecution found this one quite useful, and rightly so. So they asked him questions about it. Then he says, oh, my father was JJ's man, so they were victimizing me. In fact, when I was graduating, I was a top marksman. And I was a top marksman and I was sent to the Recce Regiment. Recce Regiment at the time that he graduated had 2 bases, one in Sunyani alongside the 3rd Battalion of Infantry, and one in Accra alongside the 5th Battalion of Infantry. I think Recce has one more right now. But for the longest time, those of us who grew up in Bema Camp, Recce was in Sunyani and in Accra. So Mr. Jakpa was sent to Sunyani. And he said that as a result of his record in military academy as a great marksman, Flight Lieutenant Rawlings invited the Ghana Armed Forces to send him to Accra to be at Gonda Barracks, which is the base of the Recce Regiment in Accra. And today, Recce Regiment shares also with the 64 Infantry Battalion. So in that part of Bema Camp, at the end of Bema Camp, at the Arakan Mess, beyond those of you go and do sports, beyond the sports center, there are 3 important units of the Ghana Armed Forces: the Recce Regiment, the 64 Infantry Battalion, and the headquarters of the 5th Battalion of Infantry. They are all up there. Now, Mr. Jakpa is saying that JJ brought him over to Accra, perhaps so that he'll be nearer JJ. I don't know. I'm not sure why they didn't put him in the 64 Infantry Battalion. But this is the catch. The guy's difficulties in the promotional exam included when JJ was president. Here, JJ, his man, was president in the year 2000. Then came John Kufuor. He told the courts and mentioned the name of Kwame Adokufuor, the defense minister, mentioned the name of General J.B. Dankwa, the chief of defense staff at the time, in connection to his difficulties. And he says that because he's a Rawlings man, when the Kufuor people came, they didn't want him promoted. But his first examination difficulty was in 2000 when JJ was president. So I'm not so sure. I don't know. I don't know how the court will look at it, what the value they will do. But I'm just raising these questions that sort of pop out when you look at the material. These things pop out. Guy says, I'm JJ's man. My father was JJ's man. I'm JJ's man as well. JJ actually said they should bring me to Accra. During the period of JJ, you take a promotional exam from lieutenant to captain and the people say you have failed. JJ was president. Why did you fail the exam? Oh, Kufuor and his people didn't like me. They didn't like me because I'm JJ's man. Because I'm JJ's man, when Adokufuor became defense minister, he didn't want to see my face at all. He and JB Dankwa, they didn't want to see me. And so they victimized me. Okay, fair enough. That's a story. But the guy didn't pass in JJ's 2000. Ajekun Kufuor was sworn in on 7 January 2001. By the time John Ajekun Kufuor was sworn in, the guy had already failed 1 exam. And he continued to fail the other 6. But the first one was under JJ. So, does it not sound incongruous? Anyway, that's it for now. Let's get to the second level of the argument. In the second level of the argument, no, let's go back to the base before we come to this. The questions, the 2 takeaways. Let's get there first. So, it's fundamental and you can move on. Yes, thank you. Now, in the second level, we have a third level on the text message, but the second level of the argument, it says, Jakpa claims that Justice Kulendi went all the way to the Attorney General's office during court proceedings to ask the Attorney General to help Jakpa go home due to complications in the verification of documents used by Jakpa to secure bail. Now, this is the story, viewers. This is because the matter is in court. The only word I can use to qualify it is interesting. He says, Justice Kulendi, thank you very much for this. Justice Kulendi sitting as a Supreme Court judge on a panel of 5. He's not sitting as a sole judge. And he's not sitting as an additional court of appeal judge. He's sitting as a Supreme Court judge. Panel of 5. He's not the only one on the panel. 5 of them. Jakpa told the High Court today that while Justice Kulendi was sitting there, he phoned Justice Kulendi and said that whereas he has satisfied bail conditions, it was still being difficult for the people to grant him the bail for him to go home. And he told the court, this also, viewers, please pay attention if you can. He told the court that Justice Kulendi, upon receiving his call, his Jakpa's call, departed from the bench. He told the court that Justice Kulendi was still robed in the legal way. Look at where the Supreme Court, those of you who don't live in Accra, the distance between the Supreme Court and the Attorney General's office on a weekday by driving is easily 25 minutes. That's the minimum. It could be 45. It could even be an hour, but it's easily 25 minutes. Jakpa told the court that the sitting Supreme Court judge, whilst sitting on the case, got a phone call from him, Jakpa, relating to the difficulties of his bail conditions. And the Supreme Court judge left the courts, drove to the Attorney General's office. Here we depict Justice Kulendi and the Attorney General. My graphics guy, cartoon guy, is beautiful, man. The guy does a good job. You call him at 3 o'clock and say, Charlie, can you put the cartoon together? You don't have to say much. Papa, he'll do it. This is what he gave us. Beautiful, fantastic. So Justice Kulendi comes to the Attorney General's office, sits down in this chair. This is the Attorney General with his legs crossed in a blue suit. And then, please, you have to put a tie on Godfrey Dami. He's always wearing the tie. He doesn't do the things that we are doing here. So next time, graphics, put tie on Godfrey Dami, red tie or some black and white Adisco tie. Kulendi tells Dami that arrange bail for my cousin Jakpa. He's still in his Supreme Court robe. He climbs up to the 3rd floor of the Attorney General's office, the old office, because of course there's a new office called the Law House. He climbed up to the 3rd floor in his robe. This is what Jakpa told the court. I mean, if you are Jakpa's lawyer, my goodness, what will be going through your head? That the Supreme Court judge stopped the sitting and left the floor, ran to his car, went to the Attorney General's office and told him, grant my cousin Jakpa bail. What do you make of this story, viewers? I don't know. The matter is still in court and is before. Next photograph. The matter is still in court and is before the judge. So this is Jakpa in there. This is Jakpa in there. And he's looking for bail. And he says that Kulendi, he makes a phone call to Justice Kulendi, and Justice Kulendi stops his work. I mean, this is what he said. Justice Kulendi stops the work that he's doing, hearing a matter before the Supreme Court. He is still in his red and black robe, goes to Attorney General's office. This is what Jakpa told the court today. We have nothing to say about it, just to say that it's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Anyway, now the last part of Jakpa's testimony, which is the most bizarre, is what I told you about. Text messages are 68 text messages that he sent to the Attorney General, and the record shows the Attorney General replied 2 of the 68. He sent 68 messages, Attorney General replied 2. He was asking court that, why do you know, can you confirm that many of the text messages you sent to the Attorney General, he didn't reply, he replied only 2 of them, which had to do with a schedule for you guys to meet. Then he says, he didn't reply because the text message I sent is motivational message. You are an accused person. Every morning you are sending Attorney General motivational message. Is he your friend? Is he your church member? Why are you sending him motivational message? Do you go to the same church? Are you in the same fellowship? You accused person, third accused, you claim that Attorney General helped you secure bail. Every morning you are sending him text motivational. I want to see some of those messages. Does it say that give up not, don't despair, move on to the next level. If you fail, you rise again. Good morning, Attorney General. Is that the thing he was doing? Is the guy a member of your church? Mr. Jakpa, this is what he told the court. This is what he told the court today. This is the kind of witness we are dealing with. The guy who can have a 26-minute phone call and produce only 14 minutes. He has 68 messages. He produces 25. Why do you produce 25? That is my case. This is my case. I have to produce my own. This is my case. So the other one is his case. So it's up to him. Me, I'm doing my case. I'm not doing his case for him. So the text messages that will exonerate him, I won't give it to the court. I will keep it to myself. The one that I think that the court will look at it and agree with me, I will give it to the court. So court, I have looked at all the 68. It's about 25 that are in my favor. So court, here, 25 gets. That's jakpa. The same text messages is handed over to the NDC. So you see, I've been telling you that there are some good people in the NDC. When the NDC did the press conference, they were unaware that jakpa didn't give them all until we came to show it here. So some of them were calling me and saying, where the Asabati is in the jakpa thing? When Johnson said, so jakpa, he deceived the NDC chairman and Samuel Jemfi because he didn't give them all the text messages. They thought he had given them all. So the ones that we got, they didn't have. And that's what jakpa confirmed to the court today. That he gave only 25 text messages out. The audio recording, he put out only 14 of 26 minutes. That's what he did. He picks and chooses. He's not interested in telling the court the whole truth. He's not interested. He's not interested in telling the court the whole truth. It would appear so. I hope he's interested. But it would appear that he's not interested in telling the court the whole truth. I don't know. Maybe he is. Maybe he's not. But the way it looks, you have to decide, viewers. And I'm sure that his lordship will decide so that we all know. But the way he does it, well, what can you say? I don't know. I really don't know. You don't know whether you should believe him. You don't know whether you shouldn't believe him. But he says, court, take 25. That's fine. That's okay. Take the 25. Take it. It's fine. Then the Attorney General now says, you are giving the court 25. My lords, I want to bring all 68 so that the court can take the value of it. 68 is the whole truth. It's nothing but the truth. 68, the whole truth. Nothing but the truth. Then lawyers for jakpa, we can't tell whether it's on the instruction of jakpa or it's on their own instincts. We really can't tell because lawyers are usually working on the instructions of clients, but we don't know this one. What happened though is that lawyers for jakpa come out and say, Judge, we will object to your taking the text message from the Attorney General. We will object. That's what the lawyer said. We will object. Now, what is the basis of the objection? Of the objection? Then one of the lawyers says that the text message, the typed document that the Attorney General is submitting is black and white. In text, some is green and some is white. Why is his own black and white? Viewers, you know the answer to the question that the judge gave? The judge said, but you two, the text message you brought, it was in black and white. So if yours was in black and white, why are you objecting to theirs in black and white? Then the guy says, well, the fact that ours is black and white, it was accepted, doesn't mean that his own should also be accepted. Another lawyer said that, okay, let me study it first. So the court held the matter down and said, okay, let them study it on Thursday. Let's come and hear the objection. If there's no objection, we'll accept it. If there's an objection, we'll hear it and we'll rule upon it. This is what happened in court today. There will be more on Thursday. But you have to remember that Mr. Jakpa says out of 68, he gives 25. He doesn't want to give the rest because to go against his case. Out of the